Hey everybody, I'm Alec, and I'm going to be speaking to you now about my book report, for which I chose Diagnosing and Treating Addictions, an Integrated Approach to Substance Use Disorders and Concurrent Disorders by Dr. Merville Vincent. This is what the book looks like, in case you ever see it, you'll be able to recognize it. And I'll jump right into it. So something I found with this assignment is, unlike my paper, I can't give you a complete summary of this book. I wanted to, and I sort of tried to in the beginning, but I've settled for just showing you the contents of the book on this slide. And for the purpose of this assignment, I really only have time to talk about the theories of addiction. However, I did want to get into some very interesting portions of this book, and in particular, the methods and ideas behind addiction treatment. So the book covers everything from drug pharmacology to screening people for potential addictions, including the CAGE questionnaire of cutting down anger, guilt, and eye-opener. It covers diagnosing addictions and the 3 C's of compulsion, control, and consequences. It covers the entire treatment process and options for treatment, from inpatient to outpatient, from residential treatment to 12-step meetings and self-help programs. The book covers some hot topic issues like opiate replacement therapies and the effectiveness of abstinence-based treatment facilities. And I know they're likely just anecdotal, but the book is filled with case studies and real-world examples that I found both really interesting to read and also helpful to bring to life some of the concepts in the book. So my point is that if you're like me and you're potentially considering a career in addiction treatment, I would highly recommend reading this book. Even if you're going in for an interview at a treatment facility or a detox facility, reading this book can give you some great background information and might help you look like an all-star. So before I got into the book, I did want to look at it with a bit of a critical eye and give you some background on the author and the publisher. So Dr. Vincent earned his Bachelor of Science and his Master's degrees in nutrition from the University of Guelph, his medical degrees from McMaster's in 1984, and his psychiatric training is from the Homewood Health Center in Guelph. Dr. Vincent spent 5 years there, 3 of them working full-time with addictions. In 1992, he passed the American Society of Addictions Medicine exam and later moved to the Comox Valley, where he worked in the local hospital providing consultation for mood disorders and schizophrenia. And of note, I was actually born in that hospital. By 2002, Dr. Vincent became the Director of Psychiatric Services at Edgewood Treatment Center, an Nanaimo-based 84-bed program. So the book is published by Edgewood Publishing, a branch of Edgewood Health Network where Dr. Vincent works, and was first published in September 2014. So this is something I keyed in on. Although the book is filled with peer-reviewed articles, the book itself isn't peer-reviewed, and it's essentially self-published. So if you needed to take anything in it with a grain of salt, you could. In the introduction, Dr. Vincent quickly covers a very brief history of substances and addictions medicine, as well as changes in recent history. These include changes to the DSM and the American Society of Addiction Medicine, or the ASAM. And it was this, as well as an internal need for something like this, that led to him writing the book. So I do have a quote from near the end of the introduction that I felt was important to share. And Dr. Vincent says, quote, "My goal was to write a book that would be useful for various health professionals, but expressed in a language that would also make it accessible to individuals and families who may wish to learn more about addiction." So from here, I'm going to have to jump right into the main theme for this course and chapter 2, what causes addiction. So Dr. Vincent is a proponent of the disease model of addiction. He argues that addiction is, in addition to being a genetic and having some genetic and availability factors, is best described in terms of a disease involving the dysregulation of the brain's reward pathways. The idea is that as someone uses a substance, it creates a massive spike in dopamine in the reward pathways of the brain. The reward pathways are part of the reptilian brain and is linked to our survival. As a result, it's more instinctual and it's faster than other portions of the brain, including the judgment portions. As you continue to use a substance, the body has a constant need for equilibrium. So it reduces the number and the quality of dopamine receptors, and this leads to tolerance. It also explains why more substance is required to achieve the same effect for addicts. And it also explains why addicts report their first use is sometimes the best. This is a process called neuroadaptation. The brain is changing. In addition, in a process called kindling, the more an addict takes the reward pathway through the brain, the stronger that pathway becomes and the more likely they are to repeat it in the future. Dr. Vincent explains that addiction is best understood as the reward brain holding the judgment brain hostage, and it's only through suppressing the reward system with abstinence and significant time that the brain can re-equilibrate to a normal amount of dopamine. In this way, Dr. Vincent brings up ideas of a battle or a struggle with addiction recovery. He specifically references the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other when talking about the reward brain and the judgment brain. So academically, and in this class, we can argue about the disease model. And academically, I would probably tend to agree that it's likely not a disease in the way I think of a disease. But I do have a hard time condemning Dr. Vincent for this belief. There's a famous quote about the man in the arena that some of you may know, and I don't have time to get into further. But the feeling I got is that telling somebody in treatment that they have a disease is a form of the treatment. And as we often end up talking about in this class, if it's me sitting in the dirt with somebody, if I think telling them, hey, they have a disease might help them recover, then I think I would tell them that. There is a quote from the end of the book that I just wanted to slip in that I think, because this book is a proponents of the disease model, I wanted to read. And Dr. Vincent says, quote, although I work in a 12-step facilitation setting, I wanted to communicate a respectful appreciation in this book for the many philosophies and orientations of treatment out there. I have been very impressed by the creativity of thought and the different approaches taken to improve the lives of individuals suffering from addiction. I always reflect on the fact that addiction disorders and patients are wide-ranging and require a variety of different approaches. All approaches make their contribution, and mutual respect and cooperation is needed whatever the philosophy or approach. I am humbled to observe that addiction workers are unified in their passion to help those suffering from addiction. So that's been my book report on diagnosing and treating addictions by Dr. Merville Vincent, and thank you for your time.